Hey, friends, I am beyond thrilled to be able to pop on here live today and share with you a little bit of inspiration, if you will, and do it in a form that we don't usually talk about here in all things work life harmony. If you are new, welcome. My name is Megan Summerall. I am a time management expert for women, and I'm on a mission to bring work life harmony into homes all over the world through time management, organization, planning, and productivity. And today I really want to lean in on the harmony side because the way I bring harmony into our conversation is around making sure that our life is not just in service to a task list and a to-do list, right? If all we're doing is checking things off of our list, usually in service to others, doesn't create a lot of harmony, doesn't create a lot of joy, doesn't create a lot of inspiration, purpose, etc. And this is something that I focus a lot on. I put a lot of intentionality around in my own life because I don't want to have my life pass me by and not have time and purpose to do the things that are really important to me. And I'm often asked a lot around what is it like, do I have any secret tips or anything to help us with that? And so today I get to share with you one of my secret weapons that you all have never had access to before. And I'm smiling so big because what I'm sharing with you all today is my mom. My mom is really and has been and continues to be one of my secret weapons in the form of inspiration and reminding me, and today I want to help remind all of you as well, two very important things. One being hearing the word no or feeling a failure or hitting a roadblock on our journey to something really important to us doesn't mean that we're not going to get there, right? And the second is we're never too old. The time has never passed us by to spend time on, to pursue, etc., any kind of passion or purpose that you may have. So this week, Tuesday's episode, the latest episode on the Work Life Harmony podcast, my amazing guest is my mom, and you all get to meet her. And the reason I brought her on the show is in just a few days, she is about to turn 80. And just this week, her new book was just published in Amazon. So let that sink in for a minute, right? And this book you will hear in the podcast was something she thought it had only been 15 years, and I've gone back and done it. It's actually been closer to about 23, 24 years of working on this particular book. She has published another book that was published about 14 years ago. But when she decided she really wanted to get this book published, I'm here to tell you there were a lot of no's. And she shares in the podcast, there was a file cabinet full of them, of literary agents not interested in the book. Yet that did not stop her, nor did she get to a point in life to say, turning 80, whatever. She went through, and I got the privilege to support her on the technical side of getting all of this published, which was an honor and a treat for me, but also a great reminder of we're not too old to learn new things, right? My mom does real well with technology, but there were definite hurdles and new things for her to learn as we worked through that. So a couple things that I want to share with you about this and how you can apply it into your own life. First and foremost, I would encourage you to ask yourself a question and then just let it percolate. And it is this: what is it that you've always desired to do? Or maybe you've started on and stopped and you'd like to get back to it, right? And, sometimes we start on things and we stop and we're like, no, I don't really want to do that anymore. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about that recurring thing that keeps coming up. You're like, oh man, I miss this, or, oh, I wish I could, right? And then ask yourself, how can I bring this into my life again now? What might I be able to do? Because I think what happens so many times, especially if it's something you started and then stopped, and now you're coming back and picking back up, which is what happened with this book. My mom started it And then it kind of put on pause for another project. And so then it was a bringing it back. And what often happens in those scenarios is we think in order for us to get back to it, it has to look the same way it did back then. So let's just say you were working on a book, all right? And maybe you had 2 hours a day to write. And now you're like, man, I want to do that, but I can't because I don't have 2 hours a day to write. Okay. But do you have 20 minutes? Right? So maybe what it gets to look like today is different than what it looked like when you first started it. And be open to that. I've shared with you all many times, thanks to this community and our conversations, you guys always keep me accountable, which is why a year and a half ago almost, I took up cello lessons. Never played the cello in my life, but it was a constant recurring theme of something I wanted to do. And I allowed myself to think, what's the point? It's not like I can be in a high school orchestra, right? I'm not going to do anything with it. I just have always wanted to for my own personal pleasure. And then I thought back to my younger self. I played other instruments in my youth and the amount of time that I spent practicing those instruments. I was like, well, I can't do that. So I don't have, that's not the time I have right now in life. And I thought, okay, but what if I could practice for 20 minutes a day? Is that still worth it? Heck yeah, it's still worth it. So am I, nailing this instrument the way I had others? No. But am I loving that little bit of time? And am I doing this for myself, to fulfill me? Absolutely. Right. So you get to decide what that looks like. And if you hit roadblocks along the way, that's it. They're just roadblocks, right? You get to define what that detour looks like to get around them. And this is a message that I have received, not verbally, but through actions my entire life from my mom. And I'm blessed to have that. And that is why I wanted to share her and share that story with you all on the podcast. So if you have not listened to the latest episode of the Work Life Harmony podcast, you can find it on any of your podcast players. And I also have it just directly on my website. So maybe you're not a podcast, player. Well, you can go to megansummerall.com, and on the menu above, there's a podcast. Just hit Work Life Harmony and the player is right there. You can play it right from your computer. And then second, if you are one that enjoys reading beautiful memoir style writing, I encourage you to order her book. It's on Amazon. You can just search for The Smallest Tree in the Forest. You may notice if you search for her name, Gail B. Schisler, you'll see her other book that was published years ago. But in the podcast, you'll hear her talk about this book. And she described it as a thank you note to her grandparents. She had a very unusual upbringing and was more or less lived with a large portion of her life, one of her sets of grandparents. And this is a beautifully written book. And I encourage you to, again, listen to the podcast because she shares 3 powerful words that to her this book means, which is this: love conquers all. And it certainly gives us a lot to think about there. Thank you for sharing the link to the episode out there for that. And I will come back and share a direct link for you to grab this book on Amazon as well, so that you can go get it today. And I hope that it will inspire you to reconnect with something that you would like to pursue. So join me in wishing a few days early a very happy 80th to my amazing, beautiful mom. And I can't wait for you all to take that first step on the thing that you either want to start or you want to pick back up. Have a fantastic week.